right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hi. It's 22 minutes to 8. Our conversation continues with our guest, Senator Raphael Chimera, free education in the country. So, Senator, there's the thinking by the people the technocrats who actually work out the numbers and crunch the numbers and say, this is the cost of taking one child through grade 1, cost of taking the same child through into grade 7, cost of taking this child into secondary, and so on and so forth. And they've put down the figures. And then the government says, yes, we can afford to pay these through tax collections. But we've seen that there have been very many challenges in that whole process. What then does it take for us to actualize this dream, where every child gets their constitutional right to a basic education?
You know, this might be politically incorrect for me to say.
But say it anyway.
But I'll say it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There are funds that, in my own view, should not be where they are now.
Okay.
In terms of the level of control and in terms of the level of implementation. A fund like NGCDF has a component on bursary.
Yep.
And I'll give you the numbers. Let's say Lunga constituency, where I come from, has about 50 million per year as funds going to
bursary
education
alone.
When you look at the county governments, 47 of them, every county government in this country has a bursary cum scholarship program.
Yes.
My own county, Kwale County, and for very obvious reasons, by the way, because we've been manualized for so long, that was a very brilliant, thought-out idea. I was graduating in 2013 at the Nairobi University here as a law student. We were very few. Actually, I think I was the only one from Kwale graduating the degree in law. But progressively, since that fund came onto place, we've had many of us graduating and becoming graduates and all that. So my county runs about $500 million program a year. If you are to do an average of 400 million per county.
Wait. Your county has $500 million.
Yes.
500 million.
500 million
shillings.
Set aside for bursaries every financial year. Then you have NGAF, where I've worked for. I've been the pioneer fund manager for National Government Affirmative Action Fund in 2015. This is a fund that women reps run.
Yeah.
They equally have an allocation for bursaries.
Yeah.
You know, it's about 7 million per year,
Per
per women rep. Then also the President's Office runs a scholarship program and bursaries program. All this money, just at the thought of it, you're looking at around on a minimum 60 billion Kenya shillings. Surely. If that money is all put together into one basket to complement what goes as capitation now, don't you think we are a step higher towards attaining free education in the country?
What difference would it make?
The difference would be because I have an issue with the way we run our bursary programs. It is purely tokenism. It is purely discriminatory in nature.
How?
As an MP, I would be looking at where I got my votes, and that is where I'll be channeling my bursary programs mostly. Number two, by the time I get that form to fill in as an applicant for bursary, I must know someone in that MP's office. It goes like that. It is never transparent. There is no guideline as to how we issue our bursaries. And that's what you all agree.
But Mheshimiwa, you just told us how it is issued. It seems very transparent to me. You must know someone in the office of the government.
That is not being transparent, City. And that's why many learners...
Is the fund, for example, if we just take the example of Lunga,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Let's say an allocation...
With all due respect to the sitting member of parliament from
yes,
Lunga.
let's just say an allocation of... It's capped at least 30% of your money must go into bursary.
Yes.
So 50 million shillings, say, for Lunga.
Yes.
Or any other constituency. Is there misallocation of this money? Does the 50 million end up in schools? Or are we saying that 50 million is the figure, but the money that actually ends up in school supporting education is 20?
Very well. Correct. I agree with you.
So how does the money disappear?
That is the issue, because of course there are many loopholes. There are no guidelines on these old bursary programs. You might find, double allocation. You might find a certain school gets much more money with a view of getting it back through other means to either the committee or whoever is there. So that money does not really get to assist that needy student. And what is the basis of giving a student 5,000 shillings? That's where I really have an issue with bursaries. You give someone, let's say Raphael, 7,000 shillings. My fee balance arrears is 40,000 shillings. you give me 7,000 shillings, and I have to come for a whole celebration. You know, the member of parliament must show people and Kenyans
to receive a
I
check.
gave out money to receive a check. Why I'm going to receive that check, I spend 1,000 going one way. Coming back home is another 1,000, 2,000. So how much have you given me? In short, 5,000 shillings. So then why do we have these monies being controlled by politicians for the sake of doing politics and not towards actualizing education to these people?
NGCDF, is it really controlled by politicians?
Well, by law, no, but practically, yes. Me and you know that.
No, actually, I don't. I'm going to explain to you why.
Yes.
When it was just CDF, I knew.
Yes.
It was controlled by politicians, and I even knew how.
Yes.
But when it is the government who actually employs the people who manage that particular fund,
Yes.
okay, how does the MP have control again?
Well, by practice, if you look at the way NGCDF operates now, they can't even do any program without involving the MP, who is the patron. That's what it's supposed to be. He's a patron of that fund, isn't it? But then again, even issuance of those bursary reforms is the ones who directs. Can you issue bursaries? They even do.
Is
they
that,
even do
is, that,
events.
is that according to the law, or are they just...
It is not the law.
Yes, so meaning they're bulldozed into the system,
exactly.
And they're brought in... essentially, they're breaking the law. Is that
Exactly.
not so?
And sad enough is we've allowed them to do that. As the people, we've allowed them to do that.
You mentioned the idea and the amount, and you said 60 billion. Are you one of the proponents of the idea that this 60 billion should be in one basket?
Ideally so, but I also have an issue with it being in one basket.
Good.
That's the issue I have. Unless we are going to put in structures in a way we harmonize this basket. But I know there'll be a lot of corruption there. And then again, there'll be a lot of, like I come from the coast. We've really had issues in the past accessing education. So then again, they will, and there's this notion that Coastalians never go to school. So, we are also concerned when you put that money in one basket in the ministry, certain regions might not benefit as against the other ones.
Consider the 600 billion that we already have.
Yes.
How does that one work out?
Well,
That is where the fear comes from.
Exactly.
Because if this 600 billion is a subject of discussion every year without fail, okay? And the only way we see that education has begun to work in the coast and other marginal areas is because you have a county government.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So now we want to take this 60 billion again, and you want to put it where exactly?
There. The thing is, all these other people who are talking like is your urban rep or MP or if they did their job, the 600 billion, the 800 billion would actually do what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
Because the question is, I've always asked, why do we have bursaries? Why do you have the largest allocation in the budget being education, and then you still have some bursary fund coming elsewhere into education?
Exactly.
Coming from the same government.
There's too much money for education, Eric, I would tell you.
It's over 1 trillion shillings that
Exactly.
goes into education every year.
So we can make free secondary education.
Or it's more than enough to give us free education.
Exactly.
Yes.
Both primary and secondary.
Yeah.
So this, because of the bunky business that happens here, you find that because of the 600 billion shillings, we have all these questions. Does it actually go to what it's supposed to do? Sijui books, you find books are being provided, supplied to one school, 7 copies of the same book
Yes.
for the same student. Just loopholes
Or
here.
you're given books for subjects you don't teach.
Yeah, you're given this school does
Or
not teach
sometimes
this
you're told, can you
particular
borrow the next school? They have books.
have
You
books.
you have to exchange.
poorly governed systems. If those systems were made to work well, the over 1 trillion shillings that goes into education would actually be ensuring that we have free education, free basic education.
I think,
All
Eric,
the way.
I think, Eric, the key starting point would be, number one, let us delink anything called bursary from politicians. That has been my Clydon call. And I know I'll be so unpopular amongst my colleagues, but we have to do it.
Who is supposed to help delink it? See, it's the politicians.
The politicians.
Yes, so
Yes.
how is the delinking going to take place?
Well,
But the people saying,
Exactly.
we do not want anything called bursary.
if the people say, and I'll tell you, this is now me jumping over the gun. As a Senate, we've had that conversation lately, especially when Gen Z happened. And we said there's need to reform this whole program so that, the young men and women can access literal education in a very clear manner. So we are, and it's my colleague Senator Langwa from Kiambu, who is sponsoring a motion at the Senate, so that we can make noise about it, discuss it, and end up, with resolutions that are actually going to push the ministry to implement these resolutions. But then again, I know, having been in the Senate, I know doing a motion, debating about it, doing resolutions is one thing, and having Bello Kipsang and government implementing the same is another thing. So the other option we have is to perhaps come with a law, maybe a bill. But then again, there's a very interesting petition now before the High Court, if you've read it, by Laban Omosundi, that seeks to literally declare all these bursary, especially by the county government, as being illegal. That's a very interesting petition right now at the courts.
Because county is performing a national function.
Exactly, and thank you. So basically, we need to have that conversation as leaders. It must come from us as leaders, And we as a Senate, we are very, very serious about it. I know our colleagues at the National Assembly will be making noise about it. They'll even threaten abolishing the Senate because to them they think the Senate is just a useless institution in the country.
You're only making noise.
Maybe you also agree with them, but I tell you, we must start from somewhere. Delink these funds from politics. It's as simple as that.
And I think it's about time that the citizens engaged more on this thing of funding education, right? And we are at that point where people are asking questions about university funding. Let's go back into the things that Dr. Manyasi were even saying. When we categorize schools and we say that some certain schools, because of their categorization, get 99% teachers from TSC, and yet another school gets only 20% teachers from TSC and has more students.
Yes.
And then we also say that these schools are going to get more funds than the other schools because of where they are. We are basically just, propagating inequity in the country.
True.
Yes.
And we have to start to a point and ask ourselves, if we have been spending 800 billion shillings every year going into education, are we getting quality for our money?
Zero.
If we, every year, at the beginning of every academic year, we have stories in the papers and on TVs and on radios, everywhere in our communities, of children who have done very well, but they are unable to join school because they cannot raise school fees. And then you have all these funds coming up and saying, we are going to help support. And you hear that CDF is only giving you 1,000 bob. People have spent sleepless nights at queuing, being dehumanized to queue at an MP's office. Or you see video clips of an MP, for example, the MP for in Nakuru, who was telling people, Pangaraini, pesa. Just insulting people. At that point,
It's the politics, my dear.
vulnerability.
No.
We have to ask ourselves, what are we doing? We must make education completely. I agree with you. We must make it free. And if it's bringing this 60 billion shillings back into the kitty, that's okay. But also oversighting and making sure that all the money goes to what it's intended to do.
And thank you mentioned about oversight, because I am concerned on the oversight. I can't be the one giving bursaries. I can't be the one implementing that program. And then I want to oversight myself. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It is not. I can give, let's say, 1 million bob to a non-existent college. The only way it exists is there's a finance officer and perhaps the owner of that college.
Yeah.
And I tell him, look, I'm looking for money for my campaigns. Send me a list of imaginary students who are studying there. I'll send you 1 million shillings. Give me back 800 shillings. Keep 200. It happens. It happens. Then who oversight these issues? So we have to start from telling politicians, please, can you purely represent and legislate and oversight? Forget about running bursaries. I know this is a very unpopular discussion to have. I'm already fighting those wars right now where I come from. Yeah, they're even saying this young man is opposed to bursaries. I'm a beneficiary of bursaries. I actually went to campus through Lunga Lunga CDF, all through the 4 years. But it was a partisan, but I'm happy I got something. But today I'm telling my people that, look, we need to run away from politicians running
How
this
much
fast.
did you have to go through to get that bursary?
A lot. And it's because my father was well known to the MP.
Bas.
That tells you, because he was a civil servant. He could access a bursary program in one constituency, another one. So in a year, I would get about 40,000 shillings. 10, 4 of them. Who else has that privilege like me from Kwale? None. So we must, we must talk about this discrimination. It hasn't to be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what is of interest is it's something that has been said. Eric started saying this thing almost 3 years ago and said, if the citizens don't up their game and realize that it is them who must hold their political leaders to account, because it's them who elect them, there won't be any change. Because what has been evidenced from the National Assembly is that they are not going to pioneer any change. No, they will fight to maintain the status quo. Anything that puts them at the center of the discussion will not be touched.
Do you know what they want now? The latest thing they want?
Tell us.
they want 100 million per constituency to do irrigation.
Yeah. It's something like that.
Yeah. You imagine, I mean, how standard is that figure? Because a constituency like, let's say, Mvita in Mombasa, does it need irrigation?
Really? According to them, yes.
And they have tarmac all through. I mean, where are they irrigating?
If you come from Tana River, you have more water than you know what to do with.
Yeah.
So this irrigation,
So it's not standardized. It's the thought that goes into this whole thing.
It points to the very same thing about what it is that people who are in that house, what they understand their role to be, and the benefits they must derive from the roles that was actually given to them. Because we're not discussing the benefit of the citizenry, we're discussing the benefits that those individuals believe should accrue to them.
You know, right now they tell me you are nominated. Wait until you get elected. You will talk like us.
Yes.
I hope it doesn't happen that way when I get elected.
Well, it's you to decide. Really.
Actually, what do the people think?
The people are with me, actually. I'm from a tiny village in Lungalunga called Ngadhini, just next to the border in Tanzania. And I went, and I usually travel around with my checkbook, law firm checkbook, because I know at some point someone will come and tell me, Mheshimiwa, I have a fee problem. I just write 5,000. To me, I feel it never helps. But to them, it's really something.
I want to assure you it helps.
And I asked them, if I go back to Parliament, and I have the videos with me, I wish I could play it. If I go back to Parliament and I say, look, can we consolidate all this bursary into one thing and make education free? So that you don't have to call me, you don't have to call the MP, the governor, the MCA. You just walk straight to school and you will find the education there for free. And they said, yes, we don't want this bursary. If you will do it, then we are happy to go that route than the route of tokenism, than the route of us having to kneel down before an MP to get money for school. So the people really are for this idea. But now the question is, when and how do we do it? And who likely is going to lead this revolution?
Actually, it has begun. It has begun because the thing, it doesn't start with anything being overturned. It starts with people being bold enough to question.
Yes.
And to continue questioning. Now, that questioning is what many people who are in authority and power do not want. They want to tell you and they want you to abide by what you have been told. So when you question or when you say, no, this we will not do, what you're talking about has begun. Now, this is one of those trains that doesn't have a reverse gear.
Yeah, true.
It's moving forward. It's just going to continue moving forward. Now, the question is, are you going to board it or is it going to leave you behind? That really is a question that one must ask. Yes. Are you going to be the right or the wrong side of it?
We must be on the right side of history. I mean, there's a lot we can do with these funds, a lot. It's sad that in 2024, some of us are still depending on bursaries.
It's really annoying. Let me tell you, it always gets me, that you see every time somebody there's a parent who's already thinking, schools opened, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And then somebody was already thinking, okay, next year is coming. How do I start aligning myself? How do I start preparing to get support to take my child back to school? I mean, that's completely dehumanizing.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here and we say that, we run a 4 trillion shilling budget every year. And the biggest component of that budget is going to fund education. And there are people who are spending their waking day every day thinking about how they're going to take their child back to school, or they are living with their phone because any moment atapigiwa simu ambiwe, baba nitumie fare nikuja nyumbani, I have been sent away. There's a child who's going through that right now.
Yes, there are. There are many children who are going through that. And yet we have the gumption to talk about being the largest economy in East and Central Africa.
Yes.
Okay, how exactly does that help those among our citizens who need the help most? This so-called big economy, the ones who actually need the help. But what I found irksome is every time I look at the achievements that we've witnessed in the county governments and the joy people have, and then you realize it's a fraction of what you should have received.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's a fraction. It's a very small fraction. You have no idea just how much more was allocated to you and you should have received.
Yep. Because I know of many counties that have done a very good job in promoting literacy levels. They literally, at the inception of devolution, they put much efforts and a lot of activity in supporting education. And matters health lag behind, matters infrastructure lag behind, matters trade lag behind. So now you have an influx of many people with education degrees, but they're jobless There are no industries. There's no tangible investment into manufacturing. There's no agribusiness happening. So these guys, at the end of the day, where are they ending up? They're just there. So what you're also getting must be a measure of what we really expect as a society.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the conversation we must have. Otherwise, we are damned as a nation if we continue with the practice we have as it is now.
Is there
we will be a larger economy, yes, but on a fraction of it, we are not any larger economy.
Is there any member of parliament that you've talked to, or even your colleagues have spoken to, and who is in agreement that let us take all money of education into education?
All the senators are in agreement. All the National Assembly members are in opposition. They are opposed to this idea.
There's no single member of the National Assembly.
Only one who said, and my current MP Lunga Lunga, who said, if Chimera, you will convince the government and some of us that this fund you want to put, or this entity, you call it a basket, will be run in a very transparent manner. It will be harmonized. There will be clear guidelines as to receiving and release of funds from Exchequer or from the Ministry of Education. And people can actually access free day secondary education, then I'll support you. But as it is, they are still for the idea of CDF running that fund.
This conversation must continue. We must really, really look at how we are funding our education in the country. And Senator Raphael Chimera, thank you very much for joining us today. Come again soon. It's been a good conversation.
Asante sana.
Keep it here for more. Our Justice Thursday conversation is coming up next. It's 8 a.m.